Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is Rubidium. Today we are talking vertical video. Love it or hate it, this is now part of typical deliverables. So let's look at 3 ways to get decent vertical video of your projects. I was talking to a post-production friend of mine, and he was saying that almost every project he's had in the last 12 months required vertical video as a deliverable. Basically this, so that the brands who are putting up these commercials and short films and documentaries and branded content can put it on their Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook stories. And then you click a link and then maybe it takes you to the YouTube video or the website or whatever it is. They're not shooting the project as a vertical video project, which is still thankfully rare, but they are asking for a vertical video version of the project. The easiest way to do this is just center cut your video. Now you'll need to shoot in at least 4K because the Instagram resolution for vertical video is 1920 by 1080 but vertical, so 1080 by 1920, and you'll need a 4K master to pull this center cut from and have sufficient resolution. So I guess one more reason to shoot 4K. Vertical video is very claustrophobic, especially, if this was a dialogue scene between me and someone else, the other person would be totally cut off. One way to make the center cut a little easier to frame with is to add guides like I have here on my small HD. So I can turn them on and off, and you see that they give like fine white lines, or another way to do it is to put it into the matte version where you can see very clearly what's going to be center cut and what isn't, and you can frame accordingly. This often leads to a very compromised vertical version. So let's look at another couple ways that you can get a better result. A second method is the camera flip, where you put a second camera plate on the side of your A camera. You shoot your scenes like you normally would, but after you get your final take before moving on to the next setup or scene, you detach the camera, reattach it vertically, and shoot one more take, usually with a zoom lens so that you can adjust the frame without messing around with the camera too much, and shoot the whole thing again vertically. Now, this will give you definitely the best result visually because you're able to make decisions with framing and focus and all those other things based on the vertical version. This is essentially shooting 2 projects though. You're shooting your horizontal project, then before you move on, you're shooting your vertical project. You're gonna have to send 2 sets of files, 2 sets of audio to the editor. He's gonna have to make 2 different cuts. You're gonna have to do 2 different grades. It really does stretch out your timeline for completion because it adds time to the shoot, it adds time to post. But if you're going for a really cinematic vertical video version, this is the method I would go with. This is the gold standard. The third way to get vertical video that I've used that I actually quite like is to mount a second camera vertically on your A camera. So you'll need to use something with autofocus, hopefully, because it's very difficult to pull focus simultaneously with 2 lenses. But if you're shooting something that's wide and that's not just a talking head, this is a really good way. You have to use a small camera. I've used their 5D Mark III, works really well because it's full frame and the zoom lens is able to get you much more. The downside is it doesn't shoot 4K, it only shoots 1080p, and it's not a particularly cinematic H.264. I definitely want to try out the Sigma FP. This looks like a perfect camera for this ability because it's full frame, it's very small. You could bolt it onto the side of your camera cage, get a second version with maybe not so deep a focus, so you're not focus critical, and then master out both of them. You could even go ahead and use something like the Tentacle sync boxes to sync both cameras with timecode, so once the editor does a cut of the A main horizontal camera, they can just synchronize that with the timecode of the vertical B camera and maybe just have to do some adjustments and framings, but they should be able to get, without a whole new edit, a pretty usable version of your vertical video. That is my look at 3 ways to get vertical video of your projects. All 3 of them require some kind of compromise, extending your budget, extending your schedule, your shoot, and extending your edit. Big brands who have millions of followers on Instagram and Snapchat want to connect with those people and push them into seeing the project. So I guess the vertical video in a lot of ways is just, it's not an end in itself. It's sort of like a teaser for the main project. But as a DP, as a director, I want to make it as good as it can possibly be. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.